All right, and we are live. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the live stream. We got a nice 5-gamer tonight, so should be a pretty good one here. We got a bunch of injury news coming out throughout the day, so definitely some guys that are going to be getting some bumps up in usage. The biggest one being Damian Lillard being out. Norman Powell's out in the late game. So that's going to be some big news, certainly for our man CJ McCollum. Golden State Warriors taking on Phoenix. We have Andrew Wiggins now listed as questionable, so that's going to be some big news. We did get confirmation that Draymond Green is in, so that's good, but still waiting on the Andrew Wiggins news, which could certainly change some stuff in their rotation. And then as far as the LA Lakers-Sacramento game, we do have LeBron James listed as questionable, a true questionable. Harrison Barnes listed as doubtful. We kind of already knew that going into this one, so no surprises there. Memphis taking on Toronto. Gary Trent Jr. still remains questionable. We knew that this morning, so no surprises there. If he's out, obviously that's going to give an even bigger bump up to some guys. Svi Mykhailiuk could be the guy that would get the biggest bump up here. So that's some big news. And then the New York Knicks and Brooklyn game, we have quite a bit of stuff going on here. We have Derrick Rose, Mitchell Robinson, Nerlens Noel, R.J. Barrett, all listed as questionable. This New York Knicks rotation certainly want to keep an eye on. If we do get confirmation that any of these guys are out or multiple of these guys are out, going to give some big bumps up to multiple guys in this New York Knicks rotation. So I think that's a quick little brief overview of the stuff we're looking at before we get into a little bit of a deeper dive here. Patrick says, what's up, KJK? What's going on, Patrick? Welcome into the live stream. Glad you could join. Let me know if you guys can hear me loud and clear. I think you should be able to. But always like hearing feedback that I'm coming through clear. And we're going to go ahead and start breaking this one down, guys. I mean, with there being no Damian Lillard, one of the guys on the slate that is going to be one of the top value plays, of course, is going to be Anthony Simmons. I mean, the guy's a very good fantasy point producer. It's really just a matter of him getting the minutes. And now that there is no Damian Lillard, he's going to get a big bump up. He's only 4K on DraftKings. Over on FanDuel, he's priced pretty reasonably as well. They've got him priced at 4K as well. So, going to be one of the easier plays to be locking in our lineups for sure tonight. So, he's one guy that I'd be looking to immediately because, I mean, this guy's a really good fantasy point producer. Looking at what he's been putting up so far on the season from a FanDuel perspective, let's see, he's putting up 0.81 FanDuel points per minute. And on DraftKings, I can almost guarantee with his three-point shooting ability, it's got to be better. On DraftKings, he is putting up, if I can find him on my list here, Anthony Simmons is 0.86. Yeah, so very good stuff across the board. 6.5 point spread. Now, games actually expect to stay close after we were somewhat concerned about a blowout this morning, so that's always a good thing. Don't expect there to be any issues there. So, yeah, Anthony Simmons certainly going to make a lot of sense. Kind of getting away from the game-by-game breakdown here, but I just want to point out some guys that are really standing out. I mean, he's obviously a very obvious candidate. Robert Covington on the same side. These Toronto guys I love. If you didn't see my video this morning, Pascal Siakam is my lock of the night. Going to absolutely love this game environment. Both of these teams have been very subpar defensively on the season. And I do think that Pascal Siakam could have a very big game tonight, especially with there being no OG Anunoby. He's been playing mid to upper 30s, especially on FanDuel where he's only priced at 7.5. I mean, he's just really sticking out to me as a great play tonight. So I certainly like him a lot. I like him on both sites. And we're getting a bunch of value, most likely, here on the slate. That should make it pretty easy to be fitting him into our lineups, which is always going to make us very happy. So a lot of good stuff going on there. But, yeah, let's do a little bit of a game-by-game breakdown. We're obviously waiting on some pretty big news, but we can still go ahead and break some stuff down here. I mean, this first game is going to be the hardest to break down because we have R.J. Barrett, Nerlens Noel, Derrick Rose, Mitchell Robinson, all listed as questionable. I mean, it's kind of next to impossible to be going over this stuff until we get confirmation on that. So Jericho Sims might be the guy that's getting the biggest bump up if all these big men are out. I mean, we have Nerlens Noel, Taj Gibson, and Mitchell Robinson all listed as questionable. If like two of these guys are out and one of them is in, obviously that one guy is going to become a tremendous play. If one guy's out and those other two guys are in, they're going to be good plays. You know, it's kind of a natural domino effect as far as the rotation is concerned, and we're going to have to be keeping our eyes on that one for sure because I think this New York Knicks rotation could certainly open up a lot of value. On the Brooklyn side of things, it's really simple. I'm looking to LaMarcus Aldridge, Patty Mills, who are getting the most minutes in the rotation for the most part in the mid-range, and then, of course, paying up for James Harden, Kevin Durant. And then the Knicks side, if all these guys are out, Julius Randle's going to get a ton of usage. Alec Burks, Evan Fournier, those three guys you're going to be really want to prioritize because they're going to have no one else to go to. They're going to have to take all the shots. Going to be very simple to be putting them in your lineups and feeling very confident about it, especially at their relative price tags. If you find out all these guys are out, that's obviously some very big news. So, Kemba Walker, not going to be part of the Knicks regular rotation for the time being. That came out at 12:56 today. Tom Thibodeau deciding to not go with him. I don't really understand what's going on here. I am mainly a DFS guy. I'm a sports fan, of course. I don't always follow the contracts, but I do believe that the New York Knicks paid Kemba Walker a pretty decent salary to join them in New York, and now they're just not going to play him. So that's something certainly to be keeping an eye on. I don't know if the Knicks planning on trading him or what's going on there, but for the time being, there is not going to be any sort of Kemba Walker minutes in the rotation. So yeah, that's kind of what I'd be looking to. Yeah, guys, I mean, Emmanuel Quickley is obviously going to be the one that's standing out, but we're waiting on the rest of this news. This New York Knicks squad could just be loaded with tons of value. We're going to be keeping our eyes close on that one. This Memphis squad, there's no Ja Morant, which is going to automatically give a big bump up to a few guys. Desmond Bane, Tyus Jones, DeAnthony Melton being the main three candidates for sure on my list, all three of which should be able to have some pretty big games in his absence. They're going to be relied on heavily, and as I mentioned, Toronto really has not been that good defensively this year. They're traditionally a really good defensive team. Some people may think of them as being really good defensively. Looking at my defensive half-court putbacks tool over here on Patreon, you can see that the Toronto Raptors are the 25th best team in points per possession rank on the season, 24th in offensive rebound percentage rank, giving up a lot of putbacks, and really not doing a good job of limiting any sort of offense. So I do think this game could be a pretty good shootout. It's a 216 over-under. I think the over could probably hit here with the way I'm looking at it. And it's a game that I'm certainly going to like first on the slate. So that's one that I will certainly be having some interest in tonight. Pascal Siakam, of course, being my lock of the night. The Memphis side definitely opening up some value with these guys in Tyus Jones, DeAnthony Melton. Going to be obvious plays. And then another guy that's really standing out to me from a value aspect is going to be Precious Achiuwa. There is no OG Anunoby in this game, so he should be getting all of the minutes that he can handle. I like him quite a bit here. I mean, I certainly like him a lot more on FanDuel, where he's priced at 5.2, just because of the scoring format over there. You get the 3 points for the steals, all that fun stuff. He's putting up 0.93 FanDuel points per minute. But, well, I like him on both websites. I think I lied to you guys. I like him more on DraftKings than I do FanDuel, but it's very, very close. I mean, I like him a lot on both websites is what I'm getting at here. Then you got to also be taking a look to possible Dennis Smith Jr. value in the late game as well. He's really standing out to me, so we'll talk about that as we go along here. Obviously, the Gary Trent Jr. news is going to be very relevant. Got to keep our eyes on that. If he is indeed out, Svi Mykhailiuk going to be one of the best plays on the slate from a value aspect for sure at his respective price tag. He's only 3.8 on DraftKings. Really good sharpshooter from behind the arc. We saw him put up 32 DraftKings points last time out, played 38 minutes. I think we're going to see more of the same. If he's able to crack the starting rotation, he is way too cheap. So, Svi Mykhailiuk, certainly going to be a guy that I'm taking a close look to, especially if we get news that Gary Trent Jr. is out in this game for sure. Anyone else? Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, kind of talked about it. They're going to get all the minutes they can handle. This Toronto rotation is just so solid and steady with their minutes, which is always going to make us very happy as daily fantasy sports players, of course. These are the guys you want to be going to. And then not to mention the Memphis defense has been terrible. So, you kind of get everything that you want when you're targeting this team. Patrick says, I have a feeling they may try to trade Kemba. Yeah, man, they might be trying to trade Kemba because it really doesn't make too much sense. Patrick says, let's get the 20 likes, smash the like button. Yeah, guys, these live streams trying to get the 20 likes, so thank you, Patrick. I appreciate the support. We got 5 likes right now. We have a lot more than 5 people in here from a first glance, so if you take a second to hit that like button, that'd be awesome. We're going to be breaking down this slate, giving you the top plays. Feel free to leave any questions that you have in the chat, and I will certainly answer them. So yeah, this Toronto and Memphis game, I think is really going to be a really good environment. Both teams haven't been the best defensively. Both teams dealing with some injuries that are going to give some bumps up to some of the guys in the rotation. I think Jaren Jackson Jr. could have a huge game here if he's just able to stay on the court. The only problem with Jaren Jackson Jr. always is his foul trouble issues. If he's able to stay out of foul trouble, he's going to put up a big game. If he gets in foul trouble, obviously, maybe not such a good game. So that's what you're dealing with him, but he's a great tournament play with a ton of upside. Guy can go out there and put up 50 DraftKings points for you any given night, 50 FanDuel points, all of the above. So certainly have some interest in him. Tyus Jones, DeAnthony Melton. I mean, it's pretty clear cut on options in this game. That never hurts our feelings. We want to know who's going to get the minutes. We don't need unpredictable rotations where we might be getting in some trouble. If you really want to go there with some risky rotations in tournaments, you're not crazy. But obviously, if we can get some solidified minutes, we know where the minutes are going. Not going to hurt our feelings. LA Lakers taking on the Sacramento Kings. Harrison Barnes is listed as doubtful still, so expect Terrence Davis to climb into the starting rotation. He's going to be certainly a value on the slate. How good of a value he is going to depend upon the other injury news on the slate, I would say, because depending upon how this Knicks news and all that stuff goes, obviously some of those guys might be some of the top plays on the slate. Certainly something we're going to have to keep our eyes on. But Terrence Davis, traditionally a very good fantasy point producer. He was always very good on the Raptors when he got some minutes in to step up, and now he's finally in the same position on this Sacramento Kings squad. So I do think that he's going to be a great value play. And I do like Rashawn Holmes quite a bit, too, at his price tag on these websites. Going to certainly need him out there with this big front court that the LA Lakers roll out. You have Anthony Davis. A lot of times they're going to have DeAndre Jordan, Dwight Howard in the game. I think for that reason, they're certainly going to need Rashawn Holmes' size. And I think he could have a really big game in this fast up-tempo game. This game is a 226.5 over-under. Fastest paced game on the slate. Highest total game on the slate. And when you're factoring in that these totals have been really low across the board all season long, it's going to make me even like it even more. We have not been seeing this type of totals. I mean, in years past, we were used to seeing 230, even up towards to like 240. This year's NBA has been a much different game, certainly a much different feel. And when I see a total like this, I'm going to have a lot of interest in targeting it. The LeBron James news, of course, is going to be big. If he is out, that's going to be a big bump up to Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis. It's also going to give some more minutes to a Taylor Horton-Tucker, a big bump up to him, Carmelo Anthony, etc. I do expect James to probably play tonight. I don't really think he's going to sit. It's not on a back-to-back. He's been playing through this injury. I expect him to be good to go. I said this morning, and I'm going to stick to it. If you're playing these Lakers guys, I certainly think that you could play 2 of them. I have a really hard time wanting to play 3 of them, though. They're all priced up appropriately. When you have that many guys that are taking on that much usage and are priced up, it's going to be kind of difficult for all of them to get there for you in your tournament lineup. So I'd probably stick to 2, if that, maybe just one of these guys in your lineups. If you're playing multiple lineups, maybe mix them in. If you're not, maybe decipher the matchup, figure out what you really like. Taking a look at Sacramento's defense and how they fared on the season so far, as far as what's standing out to me on my defensive half-court putbacks tool on Patreon, on my premium content here. They are 29th in offensive rebound percentage rank, 26th in the half-court percentage of plays rank, allowing a lot of offense to be had, and 29th in putbacks per miss rank. So Sacramento, not playing good defense, not rebounding well. So if you're asking me what that's going to mean, that means that Anthony Davis is in a very good spot here tonight. So that kind of would be my little hint to you guys to maybe have some interest in the brow tonight. If he's able to stay healthy, that's always an issue with Anthony Davis. If he gets ruled out of the game midway, don't be surprised because he's good for that. But this is definitely a very good matchup for Anthony Davis. They've really struggled on the defensive glass, allowing a lot of offensive rebounds. So Anthony Davis could definitely feast tonight. Definitely going to like him in this spot. Colin asks, hey KJK, Achiawa, Nurkic, or Ayton for DK cash game? Colin, I'm going to guess I'm going to want to go with Achiawa for your cash. Yeah, I mean, I have Achiawa right now rated as my top overall play on the slate from a multiplier metric fantasy point per price tag upside type of play. So he's definitely going to be at the top of my list. Going to have a lot of interest in him. And that would be my answer. In cash, I would certainly go with him. The Claw says, what's good? What's going on, Claw? Welcome in, man. We're going over this slate. We just talked about Anthony Davis is going to be in a great spot tonight, taking on the Sacramento defense that has really struggled on a defensive glass, giving up a lot of offensive rebounds. So I'm going to like Anthony Davis quite a bit in this spot. So if you just tuned in, there's a little sneak peek for you. Harrison Barnes expected to be out. That's going to give a big bump up to Rashawn Holmes, Buddy Hield, Halliburton, and, of course, De'Aaron Fox as well. In the fastest paced game on the slate, I do think you need to get some exposure to this game. You can maybe limit your exposure, get all the capture to upside through the main candidates that really go off, but going to have a really hard time playing the slate without getting at least some exposure to this game. It's just way too up-tempo, so. And we did just get news that Gary Trent Jr. is out. So that's a big piece of news there. That's going to obviously bump up the rotation for a lot of these Toronto Raptors guys. I mean, I talked about it this morning. Pascal Siakam is my lock of the night. I like him even more now. He's going to be expected to take on even more responsibility. I'm not too worried about this Memphis squad blowing out this Toronto squad. I still think that this game will stay close. Svi Mykhailiuk will now start, and Svi Mykhailiuk becomes a tremendous value play on this slate tonight. So he's obviously going to become, one of the top plays that you could certainly be putting in your lineups. And overall, we're just going to have a lot more interest on this Toronto Raptors squad. Van Vliet, Siakam, Scotty Barnes going to get a bump up. Svi Mykhailiuk being the obvious one. We were already having quite a bit of interest in Patrick Achiawa. Sorry if I pronounce it. Precious Achiawa, I mean, not Patrick. I don't know why I said that. Precious Achiawa, so he's going to become an even better play as well. So, I mean, that's obviously some big news. Svi Mykhailiuk becomes the obvious play, but don't sleep on these other guys. Goran Dragic continues to be out, so Svi Mykhailiuk should have zero competition at the point guard position. And then we're also going to be probably seeing some Malachi Flynn, but he's going to be probably a lot more limited in the minutes than we see in a Svi Mykhailiuk. We saw a Svi Mykhailiuk play almost 40 minutes last time out, so certainly going to have a lot of interest in him now. There is no Gary Trent Jr., so certainly adjust your lineups accordingly because that's a big piece of news there. Memphis team that really struggles defensively. Another guy taken out of the rotation for Toronto. Gonna love it, guys. I mean, Gary Trent Jr. was grading out as a good play for me in my projections prior to being ruled out. Now he's ruled out. All those guys that are going to get a step up, a bump up in minutes. Gonna be great plays. And like I said, I love this game. My lock of the night, Pascal Siakam. Feel even better about him now. Make him a double lock because there's no Gary Trent Jr. This guy should be taking on a lot of usage here. Colin asks, does Avery Bradley being out give a minutes bump to Monk for big GPP DK? Yeah, I certainly think that's a good point. Malik Monk actually grading out is a very good play for me. I do think that Malik Monk is going to get a big bump up in minutes. So we haven't talked about that yet, but yes, I do like Malik Monk quite a bit. That's a good catch by you. We've seen him play 34, 44 minutes. Very good fantasy point producer and continues to be underpriced in the fastest paced game on the slate. So yeah, Malik Monk on DraftKings specifically, love him. As far as FanDuel is concerned for Malik Monk, still a good play. Don't like him quite as much as I do on DraftKings, but I like Malik Monk quite a bit on both websites. So yeah, that's a great call by you. Who do you like more, Westbrook or LeBron James? The Claw asks. Westbrook or LeBron James? The Claw, I believe you play on DraftKings. Correct me if I'm wrong, but based on my projections right now, if I was going to go with Russ or LeBron, I would go with Russ. I like Russ more. Halliburton or Hield, the class? Halliburton or Hield? Let's see. Halliburton or Hield, if I can get that up for you. Honestly, they're both going to be pretty decent plays. If you're asking me to pick my favorite one between the two, I have to go probably with Halliburton. Yeah, Halliburton's going to get the edge there for me. John asks, what's a good value play at guard for cash game DK? Well, we just talked about Malik Monk is going to be getting a big bump up with there being no Avery Bradley, so he's certainly one. But also, I haven't updated my projections quite yet. Svi Mykhailiuk, Gary Trent Jr. just got ruled out, so I think Svi Mykhailiuk is going to become a tremendous value play for you in your cash games, John. So yeah, he would be someone I'm certainly looking to. But to answer your question right now, it would have to be Anthony Simmons. I mean, honestly, overall, I still think I'm going to go with Anthony Simmons. He's starting point guard now. There is no Damian Lillard. He's going to get a bunch of minutes, a bunch of usage. He would be my top overall value play at the guard position on DraftKings. So that's my final answer there. Time My Life says, hell late, but I'm here. Got to rewind to get the breakdown. Yeah, man, just rewind. Listen, tune it back. If you want to just stick with us live until I'm done, you can always rewind. It's a 7:30 lock tonight, so you should have plenty of time. I'm going to be hanging around till 6:30, answering all the questions that you guys have. I'm always trying to stick on here for an hour, so certainly ask any questions you have. We're going to be hanging out Chatting it up, figuring out our top plays. We did get some pretty big news here. Svi Mikhailuk starting for Gary Trent Jr. Big bump up for him. We obviously heard that Damian Lillard is going to be out. That's a big bump up for a lot of guys in this offense. Anthony Simmons. We're also going to be taking a heavy look to CJ McCollum now. CJ McCollum becomes one of the best plays on the slate. So CJ McCollum is the obvious. And I don't really think I really elaborated on that too much. So I want to make that very clear. CJ McCollum is going to be a tremendous play now. I think that's somewhat obvious, but maybe people don't know. So just so you know, obviously with there being no Damian Lillard, he's going to get a big bump up in usage, and he's going to become one of the best plays on the slate. Guy plays his ass. How do you feel about Maytu today? Yeah, I think Maytu's a decent play. I don't know which website you're playing on. I think he's a decent play overall. I'm not too interested in him, to be honest with you, though. Like, he's a decent play. That's the best way I can describe it. He's not a terrible play, but he's grading out to be pretty average for me. So, yeah, that's how I would answer that question. Top of my life asks, best FanDuel center. Best FanDuel center right now. Let's see. What do I got here? If I had to pick my favorite FanDuel center right now, probably Yusuf Nurkic. Yeah, there's no Damian Lillard. I think Yusuf Nurkic will get a big bump up. He's priced at 6'7". And for that reason, I'm going to like him quite a bit. I think he can pass that price tag pretty easily here. Not too worried about the Detroit interior. Yusuf Nurkic has been very good lately. He's only 6'7". He's underpriced. Now, that's a upside at his respective price tag answer. Now, keep in mind that Yusuf Nurkic's minutes have been somewhat limited throughout the entire season. So, if you're looking for a little bit more safety, he's probably not going to be your top option because there's a possibility he fails just basically strict basically on a minutes perspective. One guy that I do like a lot that's center eligible on FanDuel is going to be Jaren Jackson Jr. if you're just joining the stream. Talked about him quite a bit, but this Memphis squad going to be, getting a big bump up in usage with there being no John Morant here now. So I certainly think that Jaren Jackson Jr. could take a big step up here in his usage rate, in his responsibility in the offense overall. And he's a very good fantasy point producer, really, all around. It's really just going to come down to whether he can stay in and out of foul trouble. Jaren Jackson Jr. does have a tendency of getting in foul trouble. Hopefully that doesn't happen to him. And if it doesn't, he should go up and put up a big game. So Jaren Jackson Jr. another guy that I definitely have some interest in. Colin asks, you getting any exposure to Memphis players? Yeah, right on time, Colin. I mean, that's what I was just talking about. Certainly going to have quite a bit of interest in Memphis players. There's no more John Morant, so Jaren Jackson, DeAnthony Melton, Tyus Jones, all going to be really solid options, and I really like this game environment, so certainly a lot of interest. Dylan Brooks, Jaren Jackson, Desmond Bane, Tyus Jones, DeAnthony Melton being my top guys there. And I have interest in all of them. It's a big deal with there being no John Morant. That's all the usage. These guys are going to get more minutes, more usage, all that fun stuff. Going to lead to much bigger games for them. So, yeah, I have a lot of interest in Memphis. Aldridge, Baines, or Burke? Who is your top? By Burks, I'm guessing you mean Alec, or by Burke, I'm guessing you mean Alec Burks. That's really going to depend on the New York Knicks news, man, because I certainly like him a lot as is, but if we get confirmation that there's not going to be any of these Knicks guys, I mean, he's going to become an even better play. So, I like him quite a bit. John asks, Burks or Fournier? John, I'm assuming you're playing on DraftKings, so if you're playing on FanDuel, please correct me. But as of now, let's see. I'd be going with Fournier. I'll be going with Fournier for now. If we get confirmation on some news, my projections change around, that might change. But I have a feeling it's going to be Fournier anyways. I'll just give a bigger bump up to him, and I like his price tag a little bit more. He's 4.9 instead of 5.6, so it's just you get a little bit of a discount, and you get the upside. Patrick asks, what do you think about Conchar, both websites? Conchar, man, I'm not really sure that I was looking at him all too much, so Probably going to be a no for me, unless I'm missing something in my projections, but I don't think I am. I don't really think that Konchar's on my list. Let's go ahead and pull him up for you real quick. But, I just don't think his minutes are really there. He's only played 16, 19, and honestly, he's probably played more minutes because these games have been a blowout. So, not too interested in him, Patrick. Fred VanVleet or CJ McCollum for DK? That's a tough question. I mean, I really like both the plays. I think I have to go with CJ McCollum. I mean, Fred VanVleet's 8'7", and CJ McCollum's only 7'9", and there's no Damian Lillard, so based on an upside for his price tag. But honestly, if you're debating between those two, I think you're on the right page. I think they're both really great plays. So if that's where your head's at tonight, I think you're going about the slate right here. Halliburton or Scotty Barnes? The Claw asks. Scotty Barnes. Halliburton still has enough competition in the rotation to where he could get a lot of usage soaked up by guys like De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, Rashawn Holmes, Marvin Bagley, Maytu, Mitchell, all those guys. Whereas if you're looking to play Scotty Barnes, we did get confirmation there's no OG Anunoby. We got confirmation there's no Gary Trent Jr. That's going to open up a lot more usage for him. Those are two starters that would typically see, mid-30s, upper 30s in minutes that are now going to be out of rotation. So that's very big news. All right, guys, let me know if you have any more questions in the chat. Certainly will answer them. If you do enjoy this content, I would really appreciate it if you leave a like on the stream. We're trying to get to 20 likes every time. If you leave a like and subscribe to the channel, that would be greatly appreciated. Supports my content. I'll be here all NBA DFS season long, breaking down these slates to help you guys become better NBA DFS players, help you guys win some money night in and night out. That's always the goal on the channel, of course. And if you are interested in some premium content, you can check out my premium packages over on Patreon. You get access to all my projections, my core plays, all of that fun stuff. I'll go ahead and drop that in the chat for you guys here because it's really good stuff. I mean, you get access to all of my sheets. It's going to offer you a lot of valuable stuff as far as advanced metrics, all of that fun stuff. You get defensive shooting accuracy sheets. I always like to pull this one up for you guys for free. You can figure out which teams are really giving up a lot of shots, which teams are really struggling inside around the rim, which teams are struggling giving up three-pointers, all of that fun stuff for a very affordable price. So if you are interested, I'm going to drop that in the chat right now, KJK DFS Premium Content. And you can check it out at patreon.com/KJK_DFS. And I didn't type in the URL, so it's not going to link for you guys. My apologies for that. Let me pull it up. But yeah, that's where you can check that out, guys, if you're interested. All right, any more questions? Let's see. Nurkic or Rashawn Holmes? I'd probably go with Rashawn Holmes there. Rashawn Holmes has a much higher minutes upside, so for that reason, I'd much rather go to a Rashawn Holmes than a Nurkic. Not that Nurkic is a bad play. I just think the minutes are more solidified for Rashawn Holmes. I really like Rashawn Holmes. There is no Harrison Barnes in this one. So I think that's another reason that you could be looking to Rashawn Holmes as well. And since I completely failed on putting the proper link in here, guys, I'm going to go ahead and do it right now. There you go. There's an actual link if you want to check out the premium content. Apologies for the technical error on my part there. But you can go ahead and click on that if you are interested. All right, guys, going to be updating my projections, my core plays, all that fun stuff up until lock for my Patreon members. I also talk in the Discord chat if you have any questions. But like I said, if you have any questions on the live stream, certainly ask them. The Claw says, who do you like more, Durant or Harden? They're usually pretty close, but I'll tell you right now who I like more. Always from a upside at their price tag aspect is how I answer these questions, because that's how you got to play NBA DFS. If you're looking for the most upside, my favorite guy would be James Harden, and they are literally fractions of points apart. So my answer is James Harden, and when I say to you they're directly next to each other in my entire projection model, I am not exaggerating. So my answer is James Harden, but I've got him projected for about 1.5 0-1 more fantasy points. So that's a very close one. All right, RJ Barrett, Nerlens Noel, Derrick Rose, Mitchell Robinson, Taj Gibson are all game time decisions. That does not help us whatsoever. So that's the latest update there, guys. You're definitely going to want to stay on your toes when it comes to this news. That's a lot of injury news to be keeping an eye on for this next rotation. If you're a Patreon member of mine, certainly keep your eyes on the projections as I'm updating them up to lock, because that's going to just completely shift the landscape of that rotation and the upside. RJ Barrett is expected to play. Okay, so we did just get that coming through. So at least that's one guy that we know is, probably going to be in here. So that's a little bit helpful. RJ Barrett expected to be in. But we're still waiting on all this other news. John asks, Holmes and AD on the same lineup. Would that be contrarian? Yeah, I don't hate that. I mean, I don't really know if it's going to be contrarian or not. It kind of is what it is. That's kind of two bigs that you like. The only thing that could be a little negatively correlated there is, if Anthony Davis is really eating inside and he gets Rashawn Holmes in foul trouble, then that's obviously not going to make you very happy. And the same could be said for Anthony Davis. Like, if one of the bigs gets the other big in foul trouble, then they're going to have a much better game most likely, because the big's not going to be in there. But the other big obviously going to tank your lineups because he's in foul trouble. So that would be the only counter argument to that. But I don't hate that idea at all. It's not a bad strategy. I like both the plays. So fastest up-tempo game on the slate too. So there's most likely going to be the most amount of rebounds to be had in this game out of any game on the slate. That's always something to take note of. All right, guys, looks like we don't really have much more questions coming in. If you do, please ask them. And I'll be hanging out here till 6:30 answering all the questions you guys have. So just looking at all of these games, we're feeling pretty confident overall in all of them except for the Knicks game. And the only reason we're not feeling confident is because we're waiting on all of this injury news. So once we get that, we'll be feeling real confident. We'll know who we're playing. Until then, not really sure. Toronto, we already got confirmation that Gary Trent Jr. is out. That's going to make Svi Mikhailuk be one of the best values on the slate. So that's certainly some big news here. Let's see what I got here for an update in projections. After I update them, I'm sure I'm going to be having a lot more interest in Svi Mikhailuk. So, yeah, Malachi Flynn grading out as a pretty decent play as well. Svi Mikhailuk, a pretty great play. Malik Monk, Anthony Simmons, going to be good value plays. So, kind of what we've been talking about this whole time. Another guy that could possibly be interesting for you on the Toronto side of things is going to be Yuta Wannabe. There is no Goran Dragic, keep in mind. He's minimum salary. He's only $3K. So, I mean, if he plays like 15 minutes, he's not exactly the best play on the slate. But if you need that $3,000 punt, and you need a shooting guard or something like that, I don't hate the play. So he's someone that you could possibly be looking to from a contrarian aspect. The Claw asks, who's your top big spend player out of Curry, Durant, Harden, and Westbrook? Curry, Durant, Harden, and Westbrook. I'd have to go with Westbrook. Westbrook's in the fastest paced game on the slate. It's a 4-point spread. He's been stepping it up in a big way, finally kind of getting the usage that we're used to seeing out of him. Got to go with Westbrook. YHWH Warrior 15. I believe you're raising your hand with those emojis, but I'm not sure. If that's the case, man, I see you. I don't know if you're trying to ask me questions or what, but if you got a question, feel free to drop it in the chat. I'll answer it for you. All right, guys, I don't know if we have any more injury news. I don't really think we do. We got the confirmation on RJ Barrett, so that's all locked in. So that's good. Zaire Williams is a game-time decision. I don't really think that's the biggest piece of news here. So we're kind of starting to feel pretty solidified outside of the New York Knicks stuff. We got the confirmation on Gary Trent Jr., so we know that. We know that Harrison Barnes is most likely going to be out, so I'm just going to consider him out already. Andrew Wiggins would be the big one we're waiting on. That would certainly be probably the biggest news. Otto Porter and Gary Payton will get big bump up in usage in minutes if he is out. Otto Porter probably being, the most reasonable big bump up because he's a wing player. We saw him put up 40 DraftKings points last time out. Has been playing somewhat limited minutes, but we know Otto Porter Jr. is always capable of getting hot out there when he is feeling it. So if there is indeed going to be no Andrew Wiggins, Otto Porter Jr. could possibly be an interesting value play. I think we're going to have a lot of really good values, though, so not too sure it's really worth getting too cute there. I mean, we know Anthony Simmons. We know CJ McCollum. This late game is going to be absolute great value plays on the Portland side of things. I also do like Robert Covington quite a bit. He's a name that I haven't mentioned yet, but going to like him quite a bit here. He's only 3.9. He's cheap. There's no Damian Lillard. I think he's going to get a big bump up. So he's another guy that I would definitely be looking to. Patrick asks, what top spend up will be overlooked on DraftKings? So that's a good question, Patrick. Well, let's take a look. So all of the top spend up options, you got Stephen Curry, James Harden, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, LeBron James. I mean, I'm going to assume that you mean those guys when you say top spend up, like 10K up. And from an overlooked aspect, I'm not really sure there's going to be anyone that's too overlooked, man. Based upon everything that we've evaluated and my favorite play, I would say Anthony Davis. I just really like the matchup for him. Sacramento's really struggled on a defensive glass. They're giving up a lot of offensive rebounds, a lot of putback opportunities, and that's obviously going to treat him very, very well from a fantasy point upside. So whether he's overlooked or not, I'm not sure, but honestly, I don't really think about like who's being overlooked when I'm building my lineups. I kind of do naturally. Like, I play who I really like in the spot. So if I look at my defensive half-court putbacks tool, I look at my defensive transition tool on Patreon, the same tools that I provide for my Patreons. I figure out the top spot and I play them and, hope that they have low ownership at times. Sometimes they're not going to have low ownership. There's a reason that ownership is a thing. Oftentimes when guys are highly owned, it's because they're a good play. Now, there's a lot of variance involved and they can fail, and that's how you win big money, and that's why you fade guys. But anyone that says they're fading a guy because, anyone that's saying they're fading a guy because they guarantee he's going to score like 10 points and he's a superstar and he gets a bunch of minutes and he's a good fantasy point producer, they're kind of full of it. It's just a strategy aspect. You're just looking to pivot to other areas, to other guys in the same price range or other guys in the same position that could have the same upside that aren't getting looked at as much. I mean, but when you look at the projections and stuff, they're kind of the same thing. I mean, you're just kind of getting somewhat lucky, I guess you could say, with some of this stuff happening. If a guy gets in foul trouble, if a guy gets hurt or something, and you have the other guy that low ownership, the guy that got hurt might have been the better play on paper, but the guy that you played instead that didn't get hurt and isn't highly owned was a slightly worse play, and he goes out there and does his performance, and then you kind of have an edge up on the field. So I mean, don't get me wrong. Ownership is very important. You want to get the low-owned guys in your tournament lineups. That's how you get to the top. But you also need the very popular guys to fail in order for you to really have that clear, path to the top. And oftentimes in NBA is the most predictable sport in the DFS industry. Now, I say that, of course, there's always crazy stuff happening. You never know what's going to happen. Your guy could get ejected. We've seen some crazy stuff happen in the past where there's venues that have an ice hockey rink underneath the basketball floor and stuff starts, water leaks in the floor. There's all sorts of crazy stuff that can happen in this game. But for the most part, NBA is going to be the most predictable. You have guys out there for a certain allotment of minutes, typically from coaches in the rotations. They put up a certain amount of fantasy points per minute. That's how you calculate your projections. Now, my projections are a lot more complicated than that, but for the most part, that's the simple way of breaking it down. I mean, my projections are going to factor in the pace of the game, the total of the game, obviously the versatility of the coach in his minutes. If he's not as consistent with his minutes and all that stuff, I'm going to adjust the minutes accordingly. But if we're just taking it back to a grade 1 level breakdown of how this stuff is done, pretty simple to calculate your projections. There's a guy, he plays a certain amount of minutes on average, and he scores a certain amount of points per minute on average. That's how you come to your conclusion. So, all right, guys, looks like we got a few more people than 10 in here. We got 10 likes. If you do enjoy the content, if you could please take a second to leave a like. I'm going to try to get to 20 likes on all of these live streams. So that would be greatly appreciated. And if you have any questions, don't be shy in the chat. I'll gladly answer them. I'll help you guys out. That's what I'm here for. So if you have questions on DraftKings or FanDuel, let me know. I'll help you out. And like I said, if you hit the like button, that'd be great. It's free. It takes 2 seconds. It helps me out. And gladly help you out in return. So let me know any questions you have. The Claw says, is playing Westbrook and Davis in the same lineup a bad idea? No, I don't think that's a bad idea. I just want to play all 3 of the Lakers guys. So if you want to play Russ and Davis, that's fine. If you want to play LeBron and Davis, that's fine. If you want to play LeBron and Russ, that's fine. But I would not play all 3. I think that's just too difficult for them to all 3 get there for you at their respective price tags. The third guy may still have a pretty decent game, but he's not going to surpass his price tag enough to really get you up there in tournaments, unless this game goes to like double overtime or something, which is a possibility. And then if you played all 3, you're probably going to have a leg up on the field, but that's not very likely. So if you want to think that and go for it, sure, but it's going to take a lot of stuff going your way, a lot of luck. Sometimes that's part of the game, but. For class, McCollum or Grant? McCollum, not even a question, because there's no Damian Lillard. So McCollum becomes a tremendous play. He's going to get a bunch of usage. So that would be my answer there. CJ McCollum, great play. Cameron Payne or Gary Payton on DraftKings? That's going to depend upon the Andrew Wiggins news, John. So I don't want to lie to you right now. Gary Payton's going to become a much better play if there is no Andrew Wiggins. So I'm kind of waiting on that news to be able to answer that question for you. As it stands right now, I would certainly go with Cameron Payne, but like I said, that's going to depend upon that news. So that's kind of a big deal. All right, guys. Let me know if you have any more questions in the chat. I'll be hanging out for probably like another 5 minutes or so. It looks like things are kind of dying down a little bit. If you do have any questions, please let me know. But I think it's a pretty straightforward slate now. I mean, we have some great pay-up options. We have some great value plays. We have Svi Mikhailuk in this Toronto game. That's going to be a great value play now with there being no Gary Trent Jr. We have these Memphis guys with there being no Ja Morant. I really like this game environment. Tyus Jones, the Anthony Melton going to be great plays. We already got confirmation that OG Anunoby's out. It's going to make me like Precious Achiawa a bunch. So he's a tremendous value play. We're also going to be looking to some value in this Detroit-Portland game. There is no Damian Lillard. CJ McCollum going to be a great play. It's going to give a bump up to all of the Portland guys that start. Anthony Simmons, Robert Covington going to be great value plays for sure. Could also be taking a look to Tony Snell. Larry Nance Jr. off the bench. Dennis Smith Jr. off the bench. I do think are both really good plays in this spot. So there's certainly guys to be looking to. And one thing to keep in mind is Dennis Smith Jr. did used to play for Detroit. A little bit of a revenge narrative there. So that's something to keep in mind. I mean, not the revenge narratives or everything, but I'm always up for it. And I honestly think, like, just from playing DFS, I've been playing DFS since 2016. There seems to be a real trend with these coaches when they have a player on their team that used to play for the other team and they play them and there's an injury. They just play them a bunch of minutes. It just seems to be a thing. Like, that's kind of an anecdotal data thing for me. Anecdotal meaning something that you just pick up on through observing, not exactly like backed up by statistical data, but something that you're able to observe over time. It's definitely something that I noticed. So Dennis Smith Jr. I think could be a pretty sneaky value play that many people maybe aren't, keeping an eye on. I don't know if any other people are talking about him. Maybe he's being talked about all over the industry. I don't really watch a lot of other content unless I'm trying to figure out ownership. But yeah, I think he could be a decent play. LaClaw says Holmes or Bain. I think you mean Rashawn Holmes or Desmond Bain, and I'd go with Rashawn Holmes. I like both the plays though. There are different positions. But I do like both of the plays. All right, guys. So, yeah, this is a pretty good breakdown overall I think we've had on the live stream. Certainly let me know if you have any more questions. Leave a like on the live stream if you are enjoying. Greatly appreciated. I'm going to try to take a look at FanDuel over here for you guys that do play FanDuel. I know we talk about DraftKings a lot. I think that DraftKings is just the more popular format of the two, but I do cover both. And looking at FanDuel right now, a lot of the same plays. I mean, Anthony Simmons is going to be one of the top plays on the slate, if not the top play on the slate. So he's obviously, you know, a great place to be starting your lineups over here. I like Tyus Jones a bunch as well on FanDuel. Honestly, that's probably going to be a very popular point guard pairing, as it should be, because both these guys are just going to be great plays in their respective spots. So good fantasy point producers, both really cheap. Both going to open up a bunch of salary for you to spend elsewhere. And I like a lot of these Memphis guys overall, but on FanDuel, man, these guys are popping. Dylan Brooks as well on FanDuel, just going to be a little bit too cheap. So, certainly liking the Memphis guys quite a bit on FanDuel. And I like the run back options on the Toronto side. I like this game a lot. I've already said it, but I think this game could hit the over. I mean, I'm not sure if there's any sports bettors out there, but if you are, I just kind of feel like this game is going to be a fast, up-tempo game with not much defense. So certainly one that I would have interest in targeting from a DFS aspect. And if you want to take the over, I wouldn't call you crazy. But all right, guys, it's 6:20. I'm going to hang around for like a couple more minutes just to ensure that I get to all the questions. Things are kind of slowing down, though. If you don't have any more questions, you know, feel free to drop your favorite play in the chat, head out the door, say your goodbyes. If that's the case, no worries. But if you do want to stick around, you want something else, just let me know in the chat. Some more questions. I think we did a pretty good job of going over our value plays, who we're looking to on DraftKings and FanDuel. So certainly feeling pretty confident about that. But yeah. Tons of value on the slate, guys. You should be able to fit in any studs that you want. Pascal Siakam is my lock of the night. Gonna like him even more now that there's no Gary Trent Jr. And I really like him on FanDuel specifically. I like him on both websites, but that's going to be all for me for this live stream, guys. It was nice hanging out with you, and we'll be going live as much as we can, as always. Probably back tomorrow night. I wish you guys all the best of luck tonight. If you want to check out my premium content, you can do so by checking out my Patreon packages, and that is going to be dropped in the chat right now. I'll put the premium content link. You can hang out in the Discord chat, ask me questions all the way up to lock, and get access to my core plays, my projections, all of that fun stuff if you want to go ahead and join the team. And I seem to be having a difficult time with the link from this live stream for some reason. We did just get confirmation that RJ Barrett is ruled in, by the way. We were expecting that, but just so you know, RJ Barrett has been ruled in. And that's obviously some pretty relevant news here, so... All right, guys, that is the premium content link. If you are interested in some premium content, go ahead and check it out. Mitchell Robinson is ruled available to play, too, coming in. We got some injury news here, so maybe I'll stick around for just one more minute, see if we get something else, just so I can elaborate and help you guys out on what my thoughts are as this news comes in. Let's see. We got Mitchell Robinson in, RJ Barrett in. Those are the only two right now. If we do get confirmation that Nerlens Noel or Taj Gibson are out, obviously that's going to make Mitchell Robinson an even better play, so... Looks like that's kind of all we're getting for the time being. Nope, Derrick Rose also available to play. So, honestly, this next squad, quite a bit of people just got ruled in. So, I don't think anything too crazy is going to happen. Going to be kind of similar minutes to what we've been seeing, guys. So, if Taj Gibson's out, really not the biggest deal. If Nerlens Noel's out, that's going to be a big bump up for Mitchell Robinson. So, certainly keep an eye. That's really the only ones that we're waiting on, the bigs. So keep your eyes on the bigs news if they're in or out. And Nerlens Noel just got ruled in. So looking like we're going to have a full Knicks rotation. No real value opening up there. Just stick with the classic rotation. The game's more likely to stay close. But that's all for me, guys. I'm going to head out. If you enjoyed the content, if you can please take a second to leave a like. Feel free to subscribe to the channel. If you want to join the KJK DFS fan club, you can hit the join button below the video. You can get the KJK DFS badge next to your name. You get priority in the comments. it's really just a way of showing your support and me showing my support towards you, because as soon as I see that badge, your top priority to answer your questions. And then if you are interested in the premium content, check that out. Other than that, try to give you guys the best content possible for free. And yeah, Pascal Siakam, lock of the night. Get him in your lineups, guys. Pascal is going off tonight. That's all for me. I'm going to bounce out, go update my projections, my core plays, answer questions from my premium members in the Discord chat. Wish you guys all the best of luck tonight, and we'll see you in the next one.